I am remiss in introducing my next speaker. My colleague, Moore Capito, who I have the pleasure of working with at Babs Calland, is here to introduce a very special person, his mother.
Thank you, Justine. As Justine said, my name is Moore Capito, and I come from just down the road as part of the newly formed collaborative, of which we are so happy to be a part of. If the microphone gives out, I'll look for crunching faces and I'll start yelling, but I'll assume you can hear me otherwise. Should I move that back? As Justine said, I have the great pleasure to work with her on a professional level at Babs Calland, and several other shareholders are here with us. It's very, very interesting to be a part of that firm and a part of that practice that looks so far down into the future and into emerging technologies. It's been super interesting to be a part of, and I'm glad that we're starting to stretch that reach down that 79 corridor, which we value so much in West Virginia, and hopefully, eventually it'll extend all the way to Charleston, where I live, and where the state capital is. And in West Virginia, I also do what we call part-time legislating at the state level. I am in the House of Delegates, where we actively look for opportunities to invest in the future to create not only economic activity, but opportunities for our young people that are looking to find sort of next-generation jobs. And I think what you'll find today, as most of you here probably already know, but we try to raise awareness in West Virginia of, is our activity in the space, space, if you will. We have active participants, as Justine mentioned, with the IV&V Center. I mean, we have TMC Technologies that we have Constellium that's working on the manufacturing piece that goes along with all of this. But the interesting fact, oh, there I am. The interesting fact about me that I'll share with you that's relevant today is that I'm a graduate of Space Camp. And my 6th grade class went to Huntsville, Alabama, Instead of going to, what was it, Cedar Point to ride the rides, we went to Space Camp, which some of us lamented at the time, but I think looked back on with great satisfaction. And I remember our camp counselor, still, his name was Cody, and we always idolized him because we thought he was eventually going to go into space. I don't know if he ever did, but it was certainly a cool experience and something I think we should continue to extend to our young individuals through not only throughout this region but in the country. So any sort of ideas that you all have, I'd love to share with you, whether it be on a professional level, and I know the mic just went out, on a professional level, or whether we can do things on a local level in the state of West Virginia. I hope you'll share those with us, because we are nimble in West Virginia. We do want to participate in this effort and do anything that we can to sort of raise awareness and grow opportunities. Also, obviously, very pleased that West Virginia University is involved just down the road, such a connector when we look at the higher education piece and component of what we're talking about today. It's so critical, whether it's research and development or sort of grooming the next talent of the next generation. But I'm here today not to talk your heads off, but to introduce our senator in West Virginia, who also happens to be my mother. And Shelley Moore Capito is, oh, there she is. She is here, and we were, the best part about this conference, I would say, is that I got to spend an extra 3.5 hours in the car with my mother, which is always nice. And I will say about her, as Justine mentioned, when we were kids, she dutifully would turn on the TV each launch. We would get in front of the television to watch the shuttles launch, and it was very special, and it sticks in my mind. And I hope we sort of get back to that with our younger generation. It's also great to travel with your mother, because you get out of the car in the morning before we walked in here, and she looks over and she goes, "Moore, your pants are static." I'm like, "Thanks, Mom." So nobody else would tell you that, but it's good to have your mom. But nevertheless, she is passionate, obviously, about West Virginia. It's interesting to work in government, as I do, and we get to sort of share in those opportunities and talk at the dinner table about ways to sort of make West Virginia a place where people want to come, and where we can not only retain but also attract new talent. And I think this is one of those great steps. So She is, as she mentioned last night, a member of the Appropriations Committee and was seated between two NASA individuals last night. Probably no coincidence there. But I know she's happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to introduce her. So with no further ado, Shelley Moore Capito.
Okay, Moore, that was pretty good. I'll give you a good one on that. I don't know I said, why can we put men and women on the moon and we can't figure out microphones? I still don't understand that, but that's the way it goes. Thank you all for having both of us here and for the efforts that you're putting forward today. I think this is an incredibly exciting gathering, beginning, and really capitalizing on some of the things that you've always had in the region and that you're going to have as you grow. And in Washington, this is something we don't talk enough about. We talk about, I'm on a Commerce Committee as well, which covers NASA. I'm on Appropriations. And you said move over Houston, and I say move over Huntsville because he's leaving. And don't tell him I said that, though. I'm recorded. All right. Now, he's a good guy, Senator Shelley, but he has been very effective in growing the space sector in Huntsville and all around Alabama. And we're ready to spread the wealth a little bit more, and that's what this region, I think, is about. I'd like to thank Justine and her group for the boldness of putting something like this together. It's always hard to roll the dice to see who's really going to be interested, how you're going to get the sponsors, and all of the details that go into bringing something like this together. So, Justine, yes, thank you. You're on your way. This is really good, and this is really about partnerships. The 3 states. I know my fellow West Virginians are in the room. Let's see who's here from West Virginia. Yeah, there we are. We're over there, very well represented. So thank you, Ohio. Let's just see Ohio. Yep. You guys need to learn how to drive over there in Ohio, but just saying. And then the rest of you, obviously, from the Pittsburgh or surrounding Pennsylvania area. So that is a terrific turnout. There's lots going on, I think, that I can talk about. I am going to talk about my home state and why this is important to us and our legacy in the space industry. Katherine Johnson was born in West Virginia, educated in West Virginia. I attended her 99th birthday at the Greenbrier. Lovely individual. We were at the IB&V Center when it was dedicated. In her honor, her daughters were there. She has a great legacy of our state and something of which we're very proud. We also have Homer Hickam, who was the author of the movie Rocket Boys, where when he was a young boy being raised in the coal fields, he dreamed of launching a rocket. His dad thought he was nuts. He ended up doing that and not only writing about it, but inspiring a next generation. We also had John McBride, an astronaut from Lewisburg or the Beckley area, who was a pilot on one of the shuttles and was due to command the next shuttle before the Challenger accident, and his mission was scrubbed. But John's been a big inspiration to the next generation. We're also home to West Virginia University, as you know, that has a lot of pockets of expertise and knowledge and technology and forward-looking ways to transition our economy. We had a really interesting dinner last night, and we got the whole history of Pittsburgh. I was born and raised in the northern part of West Virginia, so I'm kind of familiar with this area, born just south and raised in Glendale, West Virginia. But we learned how the transition occurred here in Pittsburgh to make it the vibrant city that it is now. After having a downturn in the 70s and 80s, which we felt in West Virginia. And we're feeling a downturn in our economy, have over the last 10 years because of energy transitions. This is the kind of thing we need to be doing. This is the kind of thing that we need to be pushing as much as we possibly can. So, we not only have the development, we have the engineering, the education, the will to succeed, the adventureness, I think, that space brings to people, no matter what phase of the process you might be in. It's new, it's exciting. And for the generation that we're trying to inspire, it really is new when you consider, what was it, 1969 when we watched Neil Armstrong walk on the moon. That's a long time ago. They're so disconnected from this. And it even became everyday things. When the shuttle would go up, you would even remember. I'm glad to know that Moore remembers that that was still very, very important to me. So he mentioned a couple of manufacturers and contractors that are working with space right now. Our Constellium is working with some of the, I think it's Blue Origin, on some of the materials. They're transitioning. It's the old Alcoa plant. It's now building high-tech aluminum for all kinds of, not just space vehicles, but also defense, doing a lot of work in the defense and other areas of very vital importance to us. And as I mentioned defense, and I think about the dimensions of space, to me, there's the adventureness of it, there's the science, there's the health, there's all of the things that in education that you learn when you think about space. But to me, in this day and age, you know what I'm thinking about? Security. Somebody is going to be ruling, if that's the right term, going to be the superior entity that is over space and all of the potentials that they have. And you see China vying and Russia vying and other countries vying. And remember, we're on all these collaboratives, but I think what we see in the last 6 weeks is we're not all on the same team here. And we've got to realize that. So superiority in space is really critical to this country and to this country's security. So as you know, I think Dr. Knapp talked about STEM and STEM education. That's a real emphasis that we've been putting on in the Senate. It's all of this is nonpartisan. Hallelujah. These are things we always want to look for, things that we can work together on. We work well together. I was actually thinking about the Senate delegations from our 3 states. We're one of the 3 states that have mixed delegations politically. Each one of our states has a Republican and each one has a Democrat. Well, great. We got an evenly divided Senate. We've got evenly divided states. I mean, that's where the real power is, I think, when you can work across party lines to really move things forward. And that's what we're going to be able to do with this initiative. I'm working with Jackie Rosen from Nevada. We've created a STEM, Women in STEM initiative to try to get young women. We know young women and men and women of color are underrepresented in the STEM fields. Well, we need to change that. We need to work harder there. And that's what I think Justine and her group is looking at too, a diversification of the workforce to strengthen it and to bring those opportunities that we see in the future, not just to the traditional ways, but some of the more non-traditional ways, and move more of our young people, every young person, to aspire to want to do it. So I'm very, very excited about what I would see. I would say I have one kind of cautionary tale. One of the problems that I see from a national basis is that, and I'm going to put this on your plate, you all need to do a better job of educating us, members of the Senate and House, I'll speak at the national level, but also at the local level where more is in the state legislature, of the importance of this. And the importance not just to the future or the region, but the economic drivers that come with what we're talking about here today. How many, we frame things in how many jobs, what kind of salaries, what kind of educational opportunities, what will this do for our colleges and universities? How can we use our colleges and universities to better take advantage of these opportunities? And when I can sit in a hearing in the Commerce Committee and have the former NASA administrator talk about a project called Artemis and nobody knows what he's talking about, that's not a good thing, because you need the funding, number one, you need the authorizations, but you need the political will to put the priority where it needs to be. And the way we prioritize, many of us in the political field, if we're not totally selfish, which some of us are, but I won't get into that. Ooh, hello. But the way we prioritize, most of us prioritize, is what we hear from home, what we hear from our local education institutions, what we hear from our local business people, what we hear from the youth. So we have to hear it from you, that contracting with IB&V is creating this many jobs and this much high tech, that working with WVU in the new program that we were able to get them through an earmark, working with Green Bank Telescope out in Pocahontas County. These are the things that we need to hear from you as you're moving forward with this collaboration of how important it really is and what the residual effects will be for our communities and the people that we care about. So I'm really proud of the initiative also at WVU, the Robotics Technology Center work. I was on a gym from NASA because they keep changing the names of everything, and I'm like, you can't keep doing that. We have to memorize. So I remember it as Restore-L, but it's Awesome One Spider Mission. Did I get that right? No, it's close enough. You're welcome to call it. Okay. The thing is, the mission's bigger than just restoring. That's what I learned. Okay, got it. Got it. But I love it because we're in it, and we're in it to win it, as they say. So we're very excited about the things that we've seen and then we've been able to do. And I will say this too. I'll put this in the back of your minds, because we have reconstituted earmarks in. They're not called earmarks anymore. We did change that name. It's called Congressional Directed Spending, CDS. And it's much more constrained than it used to be, but it also gives us an opportunity, as it did for me, to earmark some money to Wheeling University in Wheeling, West Virginia, where they're going to do a Challenge Academy, where they're going to do STEM education at Wheeling to be able to get that next generation. It also helped me with the West Virginia University being able to create a lab at WVU. So these are ways that you can work with your separate, if you have an idea and you want to get it off the ground, or if you have something that you need some kind of niche funding into, if you're a nonprofit or an education institution or something, call your members, your senators and your House members, and say, look, does this something that fits for congressionally directed spending? Because these can get these projects off the ground and running. And I personally like earmarks because I can put my own personal imprint onto what's important, going back to those priorities that I talked about earlier. What's going to help my community, what's going to create jobs, what's going to create centers of excellence, what's going to create economic growth. That's what's important to me. So that's how I think that the creation, that's how Senator Shelby got all those jobs in Huntsville, Alabama to begin with. So the last thing I'll say is I also have another program called West Virginia Girls Rise Up, where I try to get West Virginia girls to be inspired to do whatever they think they can do and whatever they want to do, and to have them to achieve. And the one, I was really honored. NASA has been very, very helpful to me in these programs. We did a Zoom with an astronaut who was training in Russia, a woman astronaut training in Russia. The girls thought that was just really, really cool. But the neat one was Peggy Whitson, who is the most prolific woman astronaut. She's had the most spacewalks. She's had 665 days in space. She is now going to be a commander on a private space mission. But she had her astronaut suit on, and we went into those elementary schools, and she just wowed them. And I know they lit up. They lit up thinking, I can do this. And one of the most interesting things to me was she said that the spacewalk that she watched with her parents when she was in second grade, that is what inspired her. Most people can't say I got inspired when I was 8 years old, but she could say that. She said that spacewalk inspired me. But she said I applied, I think, and I might not have it exactly, 5 or 6 times to be an astronaut, and I failed. This is the kind of thing young people need to hear. I applied 5 or 6 times and I failed, but I kept after it. And now I have the most spacewalks of any woman. I have the most missions of any woman. I've been in space longer than anybody, almost, except for the exception of one other astronaut. She's just a phenomenal individual. So I can't wait to see her go up again on a private, who would have ever thought? Private space travel, how exciting. So our future is great. It starts here. The aspects that we've put together and has been put together by Justine and her group are fascinating. So include us in the process. We need to be at the table with you. We need to be helpful. We need to have you help us and show us the best way to be helpful, because we know that this is where the future is. Thank you all. Thanks.